like there was this, oh my God, this dude, like, who for about a year we were competing on who would interact with more girls, who would sit next to the girls, who would sit next, who would sit next to the girls, you know, in class. And there was sort of this sort of like passive aggressive competition. Welcome to We Need to Talk, where we try to figure out how to find fulfillment in life and reduce dissatisfaction. Listen to this entire episode if you want to hear the answer to the question, can guys and girls be friends without catching feelings? That's a big question, really important. We also discuss intrusive thoughts that are and how to deal with them. These are the kind of thoughts that you have in sort of social situations where a dark thought jumps to your mind that tries to get you to do something that would make everybody hate you. Let's say like make a really rude, offensive joke or punch someone in the face. You know, these kind of really absurd thoughts. And finally, we discuss the pressure we experienced in high school to be cool and fit in, and how that's actually quite dangerous because that pressure can make you grow up too quickly and sort of rush your growth, and that makes you plateau quite early instead of letting yourself develop naturally, which would be a lot better. So enjoy the episode and don't forget to subscribe. Let's go. Can guys be friends with girls without catching feelings?
Heart says yes, head says no. Yes, I think they can, but I think if there's any romantic intentions whatsoever, you have to be honest about them and get them out the way. With like the friend who I talked about, you know, I love her, she loves me, we're friends, we find each other attractive, we're not dating, we won't date. It's not possible. But I had to tell her in order to get that out the way. And now we have the sort of friend. Before we were very close, and now we're even closer because we took that risk to find out, you know, being prepared to risk what we had in order to see if there was something else. And now we're closer for it as friends, you know? So I think it is possible. I mean, if you're not attracted to if you're not like attracted to someone in that way, then it's inherently possible. But if you are, and to anybody in life who has these feelings, you have to, you know, you can't be. I would say it's not possible to be authentically friends with someone who you find attractive if you don't tell them that you find them attractive. And then if those feelings are reciprocated, great, you have a relationship. If those feelings aren't reciprocated and you tell them at the right time, then you'll stay friends. If you hold on to those feelings, which is the worst case scenario, which is a lot of people do this, if you hold on to those feelings, don't express them at the right time, then they come out at an inopportune moment or far down the line, they realize you've been inauthentic, and then you've destroyed your friendship in a lot of ways. Because now there's doubt about why the friendship was there in the first place.
Never thought of that, actually, because I would have thought like the reason why if a guy is let's say to get friends with a girl and he's in the friend zone but he likes her and eventually he expresses his feelings for her, the reason it doesn't work is because it's awkward. I wouldn't have thought then that is it that the girl thinks, and wait, hold on, what were your intentions? Like, were you just hanging around because you wanted something from me, or were we actually friends? Does that happen?
I would say in my experience, no one likes a creep. Like no, it's considered creepy to do this. Would you agree? Like, if I were to summarize the way I feel about people who try and make friends to get laid, I would consider that creepy. You know. And you said because it would be awkward. Do you mean awkward as in awkward to stay friends with someone who'd expressed taking a like finding them attractive?
Yes, but actually not awkward, because I would feel then like, wait, you like me. If we continue being friends, these feelings aren't just going to disappear. I'm going to be leading you on then, you know, and that's not cool either. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think that's something that you have to factor in as well. I think where it comes to a head is when you can't stop, you still desire this thing to happen and the other person doesn't. I've not been in that position for a while. I think, yeah, I think that can definitely cause a problem. I would say that most people, when they like someone that doesn't like them back, the problem is actually that they don't try dating, because most people, when someone doesn't like them back, it's because they're not compatible, and because they haven't had that authentic, like, intimate relationship, they don't realize that they are incompatible. So they're still idealizing in their heads about what sort of person that is. I think the problem with all of these cases is that it requires a great deal of emotional maturity. I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but it requires a great deal of emotional maturity, like objectiveness, and not having too much of an ego on both parties to come to these arrangements. So, you know, the last 3 girls that I have admitted having feelings for, things have been fine, but it took me until the age of 24 to get things right, you know, to be able to do that. And from the age of like 50, from the age of probably about 13 to 21, I was awful at this. I found it very hard to admit having feelings for people in the way that I can do now. So it's yeah.
Dude, like it's super what you said about it's kind of, if you're chasing after somebody who doesn't have feelings for you, there's this kind of immaturity in it. And I know when I was about 14 or 15, I was friend zoned by 2 girls within the span of probably like 1.5 years, and for me that's a lot. And when I think back, like nowadays, I can immediately tell if a girl is interested, or there's this like reciprocity. I can immediately tell, or not immediately, but like fairly quickly. And if somebody's not interested, I'm like, so what? Like, you just go and look for somebody else. But there is that, you need to know that you have options and you have bargaining power. And it sounds so arrogant when you say that, but
No, you're
it's
totally
this kind
correct. You're totally correct.
Yeah, and it's, yeah, like if you're in the friend zone and chasing someone, it's kind of, it's a bit sort of
Desperate.
Yes, precisely, desperate. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
would,
like, you shouldn't be like, your development shouldn't be at that level, or like you would want to be somewhere else. And what I think, when I was thinking on the question, when I asked you what, like, how do you attract women, and I was thinking that's actually the wrong question. The goal is not to attract women. The goal is to just focus on your development, and attracting women is a byproduct of that, really. And I think a lot of people get that wrong, because the question of like, yeah, how do you get girls, how do you attract women, it's misleading, and it's a bit kind of just unsophisticated, or like immature, I would say.
Yeah, I would say that if you go in the direction of, have you heard of RSD, Real Social Dynamics, the YouTube channel, pickup artists?
Yes, dude, for sure.
Yeah. So the concept that you basically train people how to say the right thing in order to get someone to come home sleep with you, but that falls apart in real life. That might work in a nightclub, in a bar, you know, that might work on a date, but it's something you've got to maintain. Like, you can't maintain a facade of being someone that you're not. So of authenticity, I don't think authenticity is always the thing to do, but in relationships, you have to if you want someone who needs a strong partner, you actually have to be that strong person. You can't pretend to be that strong person. You know.
something I struggle with is if I were to be in a relationship, well, am I going to say that?
No, go on, do it. Do it.
Revealing all the cards, like
Yeah.
everything. I think, I mean, first of all, I mean, the relationship I had was only 3 months. So like, I don't think that was enough time to sort of reveal everything. Yet I know, like, I know if I were to be in a relationship that would work, you would need to reveal everything. I think I mean, you need to be like fully honest, like basically with them, but that's super difficult. I think like, how do you, it's like this, how do you show them what's going on behind closed doors without them like sprinting away, you know, in horror.
Um, the
Because
word the word
yeah,
authenticity implies no filter. There's always a filter. Let's be real. No one's 100% authentic. Everybody has a membrane that they import, that they have to send their thoughts through, and sometimes stuff comes through that's not appropriate or that doesn't work. That, like, I think I was leaning towards this earlier. My vibe is, am I saying something that is good for both of us, or am I saying something that happens to be what I think but isn't good for them, and I don't like that I think this.
yeah.
Maybe
Then,
reminds me because of the way my attention is, you might have to occasionally remind me what the question is, or what
oh,
the
dude, no
point of
problem.
conversation is.
No, what you just said, when you have this thought that probably won't help them, and you don't like that you're having this thought, is this a thought then you say or you don't say?
Absolutely not. You don't say it. I think many people struggle with things called intrusive thoughts, and it's the idea that you'll have a thought, like maybe you'll see. A very graphic example came to mind immediately, and I'm trying to find one that isn't. You see a chihuahua and you want to kick it.
Yeah,
You know, that's not
100%.
you. That's not you. It's part of you, but it's not part of you that needs to interface with the outside world, and it's not part of you that needs to be given any power. It's simply your mind being creative in the background, and those sorts of thoughts, intrusive thoughts, don't need to be shared with the world. It doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve other people. And there are certain thoughts that are like intrusive thoughts, but not quite to the same level, that you have to make decisions of. For instance, I guess a good example is when you're at a dinner party and you come up with a joke just pops in your head, and 50% of the room will be offended, and you have to do that. You have to weigh it up.
Dude.
Yeah.
Dude, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's not even, it's a joke that 50%, like more like 80%, like most people will dislike you after it, but like it's so tempting to just,
Yeah.
it's so tempting to drop. Oh man, I totally, okay. Where are those thoughts coming from? What's going on there?
I think the mind is a very creative place. You know, like the sort of things that happen in your dreams. I think, I mean, it's not really a dream state. I think the mind's inherently creative, and in your head, you might, you know, and inherently the things that you say are filtered. But what happens in your mind doesn't have to be filtered, because no one else can hear it. And why would you? Who would want their brain to pre-filter all of their thoughts? That would be such a such a restraint on your creativity, on your imagination. And I think that, you know, it's kind of a sign that that you can be intelligent, that you can be a bit I said that I have intrusive thoughts, and I'm complimenting myself. I would say that it's a sign that you can be intelligent, that you're creative, and also, you know, while some of these things might be morbid or a bit sick, they're not things that you haven't seen or that you haven't experienced. So it's just taking an influence, you know. It's something that I spoke to with a counselor about for an unrelated reason, you know. And it's just, I think everybody has these thoughts, and you have to acknowledge that it's not your moral compass speaking to you. And the moral compass is the part of you that should be making decisions. It's not your imagination that makes decisions. You know?
Yeah. It's some sort of, I think it's kind of a, like, sort of maybe like the reptilian part of your brain is sort of testing boundaries. It wants to, like, it's like when you're in a situation that you know, with strict sort of etiquette, expected etiquette, you're like, what would happen if I you start playing with these ideas? I mean, you usually don't act upon them, but yeah. Oh, dude, that thing with that, I totally sort of went on a tangent there, but that our talk with the love thing, that was really good.
Yeah.
What else did I want to ask? What did I want to ask you? Oh, this is also what I wanted to ask you. Like, actually, I'm just want to hear what you think about this. When it's kind of related, I was thinking, what kind of advice would I give to the 16-year-old version of myself? And I thought, don't worry that the girls in your class aren't interested.
That's a real deep dive into your mind when you're 16.
And because I don't know if that was just me or not, but one thing, and I made another YouTube video about this a few days ago, like what advice I would give to a 14-year-old person, a boy, because a subscriber of the very few asked me for it. And I said, when I was 14, I was obviously hanging around girls in my class, and the maturity level of those girls is obviously higher than, you know, a 14-year-old boy. And they tend to aim for guys that are physically more mature and older, and I would say cooler. And that really pissed me off. Like, it really annoyed me. But it's just it's just like a developmental thing. I don't know. Did you also experience something like that, or is it just me?
I don't think when I was 14, the sorts of things that bothered me were the girls I like guys older than me. I would say that's very background specific. I would have liked to have been dealing with problems like that when I was 14. I did. I think that's a. I'm not saying that's a easy problem, because of course, you know, you're in one position and you see yourself wishing you're in another position. There's kind of nothing you can do about that, really. You know, you can try to grow up. I mean, I guess there are two solutions to that problem. You either become that person, or you either become that person, like try and do things to change yourself into being that person, or you reframe the problem. Right?
Yeah, that's actually the reason why I wanted to talk about this is, I mean, maybe you didn't have specifically this problem, but when you're, I would say, between the age of 14 and 18 in high school, there is this, okay, this is again what I experienced, this desire to be cool. You're part of a cool group, and you have really obvious, demonstrable hierarchies in high school, like really, you know, obvious ones. And it's clear, like, who's part of which group and which is cooler than the other. And there is this sort of struggle to climb. You're not kind of wanting to climb, but you want to be up. Like, everybody wants to be higher up. And the way you get higher up is being cool. And that entails, let's say, those kind of activities that I wouldn't really condone nowadays, or I wouldn't say like, I wouldn't want to do those things. It's like excessive drinking, clubbing. It's basically growing up quickly, too quickly. And this is this thing that as a 14-year-old, you want to grow up to be cool really quickly. But a lot of people who grow up at a very fast rate, they tend to mature too quickly, and the inner child with them does not get this sort of healthy goodbye, and then they sort of stagnate later in life because they're kind of like half grown up, half child. Whereas if you just grow up with your natural sort of what you are comfortable with, then you sort of mature like nicely and healthily. And this urge to be cool is conflated with, you know, you got to grow up really quickly, and then you sort of go in a bad direction.
I think that what kids perceive as cool is a misguided opinion. I think what personally what I think puts someone high up in a, I mean, we were talking about a desire to fit in, but I guess the characteristics that maybe you would do to be cool, to fit in, are things that are conventionally seen as taboo, like smoke. Like, you know, for instance, if you started smoking when you're 15, maybe that would put you up at the dominance hierarchy and make you more popular. But actually, what that's trying to achieve is the ability to do things that you want to do, not follow rules, you know, to be confident in yourself. But if you're doing those things to copy other people, you're not actually any of those things that you're not actually cool, you're pretending to be cool. What I would say is that I would say that I'm actually really impressed by the level you went to in terms of maturing too early and then stagnating. I'm really afraid that it would take a longer conversation for me to be able to interact with you on that level. Because
no
I simply don't, that didn't come to mind.
Okay.
And also it wasn't my, it's also not my point of, not my point of being, not my experience. I mean, my experience was that when I tried to fit in, I was hanging out with people who were doing stuff that I didn't care for. And so I basically decided that I was going to do what I wanted. And I think this is sort of a lie. I would hang out with people who I perceived to not be taking risks that I disagreed with. But what I think is cool when you're that young should really be doing what you think is the right thing for you and not worrying about the opinions of your peers. I think what makes someone cool is the kind of, I don't care what you think, I'm going to do me, that's fine if you don't accept it attitude. And this is actually the advice that, because your question to me prior, and maybe because of the way I'm framing my answers, you regret sending that to me now. But your original question to me was what advice would you give to 16-year-old you?
Yeah.
And for someone who never felt like I really fit in anywhere, and up to the last few years, you know, until university, and maybe even the last 2 years, I didn't really know where I fit in. My advice would be, don't worry about the opinions of people around you, because everybody else is just as clueless as you are. And second of all, decide who you want to be, and or when you know that you're not decide what your own standards are for yourself. And when you know you're not meeting your own standards, step it up. So if you're treating people badly, like if you're getting involved in bullying, or, you know, figure out what your own standards are, and then brutally, like, you know, brutally may be the wrong word, but analyze yourself within that framework. Don't worry about whatever framework anybody else decides, because they're just as, you know, they're just as swallowed by the system as everybody else. You know, the people who are actually cool are deciding who they want to be. They're not copying other people. You know.
I totally get your answer and agree with it. I think myself, I had a group who I like hung out with a lot in high school between the age of like 15, 16, 17. And we did just stupid stuff, like, I mean, like fun, but stupid stuff. But then eventually I kind of went my own way, and I was always sort of a bit more doing my own thing. And the thing is, you can tell somebody don't care about other people's opinions, and, you know, set your own standards and your own sort of measurement, but being convinced of that whilst you're in the situation is so difficult. Like, of course, like the people who are trying to be cool, or like everyone in high school is like deep down fairly insecure, I think, and, you know, is just trying to sort of survive and get through. Yet, like it's
difficult to tell who's actually cool and who's just pretending to.
Yeah, I mean, the whole value hierarchy of high school is just really suboptimal. It's not representative of real life. Like the sort of what I would consider cool nowadays would be completely different, obviously, from what I thought was cool in high school. But the thing is, everybody in high school thinks that their sort of definition of cool is just contorted a bit, and like is just quite unhealthy. So you have this sort of like, because the value hierarchy of the group is determined by what on average each participant of the group deems as valuable. And if you have this sort of segregated enclosed group where everybody's a bit deluded, you're just going to get like just a bit of a mess, you know? And that's the thing. And if you're a 16-year-old in that, and everyone around you has this weird value hierarchy, and deep down, like, I don't think, like, you'd need to be seriously strong to say, I don't care what these people are doing, you know, I'm doing my own thing. I don't know, maybe you were able to do that.
I guess what then I would say is that, you know, some things are worth, some things it's far easier for your popularity's sake to get on with people, to do what everybody else is doing, to follow the crowd. You know, you don't have to be an individual in every aspect, but some things in life are worth. I think I wouldn't say like isolate yourself from everybody, like only do your own thing and don't worry about everybody else. But make sure that the things that you really care about, you actually pick like one or two things that you're going to do yourself. And then don't sweat the small stuff in the other regards. Like, you know, you don't have to do your own thing everywhere, but decide what things you're uncompromising about. Maybe. I mean, it's difficult to take myself back. Maybe if you, I suppose it really depends on your personality, like what you want out of life. Because I suppose if you want the same things as all of your peers, then it's quite easy to, if you want the same things, like have the same sort of background, have the same personality of a lot of your peers, then I suppose it's okay to like want to do the same things and not stand out. And I'm afraid I don't have, I think when I was at high school, I was worried about being cool and being popular, but it's never something I made an intentional decision to achieve. I kind of gave up before I started.
It's funny you say that, because that's literally how it went for me. I think when I was 14 to 15, I gave an active effort to be cool. But after that, you know, I wanted, I guess, deep down to be cool. But I was like, honestly, dude, screw it. Like, I can't be bothered in some sense. I'm just going to like do whatever and see how it goes.
I have to say, Henry, that I think if you said, honestly, dude, I can't be bothered, screw it, you would probably be the coolest person in the school. I'm joking,
Thanks.
but thank you, my dude. Yeah, because I guess that's the attitude that everyone that people seem to want to go for, like the I don't care, it's whatever attitude.
Well, like that's what my behavior was based upon, but the thoughts were still like, damn, like there was this, oh my god, this dude like who for about a year we were competing on who would interact with more girls, who would sit next to the girls, who would sit next who would sit next to the girls, in class, and there was sort of this sort of like passive aggressive competition. And eventually I just like, it's just so irritating. And eventually I just stopped. I was like, man, you win. Go take it. You win.
Sure.
But like, the behavior sort of was like, yeah, I don't care anymore. But, in my mind, I was like,
I lose.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's yeah, I understand. And I think, yeah, you can, just as we're talking about earlier about fooling yourself, on one side you can think, oh, it's just like, it's whatever, I don't care, and actually it's like the most important thing to you, but you're just trying to save face. By the way, I think as much of a Chad sort of thing that trying to sit next to girls and trying to talk next to girls is, I think you need that. I think that's an important thing to have done.
To go through that phase.
I hope that you don't look back on it and see it as wasted time, because I think building that, like, that resilience to like approach people, or to I don't know if it was just to sit next to people, then I suppose it doesn't really achieve anything. But talking to people that you don't know, or going up to women and talking to them and doing it, even if it comes from a place of shit, I've said I'm going to do it, so I have to do it now. I think that's a really important skill to develop, like not being scared of building. I hope that you don't look upon that as a waste of time.
No, I mean, I've done some picking up girls recently, actually, and I'm done with that. No, I don't want to do it again, but I've like overcome that barrier. But no, in high school, it was like, we're in a class of like 20 students. It's always the same girls, but with what frequency can you sit next to like the top notch girls? Like, that's what it was. It's like quantifying. I mean, it wasn't, that pedantic where you quantify it, but it's that sort of, I wouldn't consider it like a key developmental stage, but
it wasn't an intellectual exercise.
Or certainly not.
Yeah, no.
But it's funny, like when I think about it, it's kind of like a bit stupid, but like I don't think it was, I'm not resentful or anything like that. It's just kind of weird, kind of funny, but that's really it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I've one last question, because one last question. What do you actually want out of life?